Hello, it's Mr. Sorpajas here, and today, for the first time in the history of this small channel, we are going to use geometry nodes. It's going to be a simple tool for you so that you can create roof tiling for your house models in Blender. So it's supposed to speed up your modeling process very much, because everybody knows that if we start, doing roof tiling like this is really annoying, and it will start getting very complex, as you can see. So we are not going to do that. Now there is many ways of how you can do in Blender geometry node something, but I want to use the simplest possible way to do what I'm doing. So that's why we are going to select our cube, and then we go here to modifiers tab, and then we will select here geometry nodes, and this will make this cube to be geometry nodes object. And we will double click here in outliner the cube, and we will write here roof tiling. So let's model singular roof tile, or maybe two, and then in geometry nodes we can use those assets to make the whole roof. So let's add here Shift+A plane, and this is one of those roof tiles, and then we will go here to edit, item, and then we will change the dimensions of this thing. So I think good size for roof tile would be something like 0.50, so 50 centimeters. So that feels good to me, and let's duplicate it and move so that we can do the other one later. So let's go to edit mode, and then let's add here Ctrl+R a loop cut, and then something like that, and then another loop cut, and then let's move this little bit up like that, and then let's move these two a little bit up also like that. You can kind of push this behind of that if you have multiple of those. So Ctrl+B, let's bevel this little thing here to make nice curve for this, and we can actually use the curve here, something like that. And then let's add modifier, and it's going to be generate, and then a solidify. So we will add a little bit thickness for this. So first tile is there. We can right click and then set auto smooth for it, and then let's activate this, and then tap in edit mode, and then Ctrl+Shift+B to bevel those vertices. And then this profile, I think, needs to be a little bit more rounded. So now if we make this one activated and have this one still here, we can press Ctrl+L, and then we have this link menu, and we can just copy modifiers. Let's apply this solidify, and let's apply this solidify. Let's also rename this our roof tile. So this is called curved, and then this is called, I don't know, rounded. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I call those. And then we can now start doing things in the geometry node. So let's select this our cube, which is called roof tiling, and then we are going to go here to the geometry nodes, and then we will click here new. For this tutorial we don't need these things. Basically this is a list of locations of every single vertex of this cube, but we don't specifically need those here. So let's right click here and then click join left. Alright, so I never deleted this default cube here because I can delete it here in geometry nodes. So this here is the cube. If I delete it here by pressing X, it's gone. And then I can add here something else, some other object. So Shift+A, and then we have here a list of all kinds of commands and objects that we can add here. So we can have here primitives, and then we will add here grid. So I will connect this grid here, and then we will have this new object here. And the data flows from left to right. So first we have grid, and then we add something, for example, set position node like this, and then we can offset this or grid. Or if we add here noise texture, Shift+A search, and then noise texture, we can add this color input to the offset, and now it will offset every single one of those points. So every vertex is its own kind of unit that is being set their position with this set position node. And if I add here transform geometry node, it will see this wall object as a singular thing, but this will see those every vertices to be a singular things. However, it's a little bit too early for this noise texture here, so I will add here a mix color node like this, and then I will make this one to be black. So now I will make this mix color to be completely black, and with this we can later control the amount of this noise texture. And also I will add here math node. So search math, and then let's add it here. And then if you think this noise texture here, it's going to start like from black, which is 1, which is doing nothing, and then it will go all the way to the 1, which is white the color, and the whole operation of this noise texture is happening inside of those values. So let's make this to be here, this noise texture, so we can see what is happening. So if we make this to be minus 0.1, it means that we will shift the noise texture in a way that instead of starting from 0 to 1, it now is going to start from minus 0.5 and it will end to 0.5. And that means that it will only shift the location of those points, but it doesn't shift the whole thing to any location. So to make everything a little bit more simple, we want to hide everything we don't wanna see. So let's just hide this add, and then let's select all of these nodes here, and then press Ctrl plus G or J, or I never learned English, but anyways, Ctrl plus J, you know that letter. And then what we want to have out from this is the factor of this operation. So let's move it here, and then let's also take the scale, and then let's tap out from this. And now we can control this thing with this factor and then with this scale. And let's go here and call this to be distort. And I will make this to be 1, so for now we don't need to think about it. And then actually I want to go here to the viewport wireframe mode. So by that way I can see what is happening here if I adjust this my grid. So if I add here vertices, you see how those vertices are being added here. However, if we change the size of this, so I will change the X size, you see that it doesn't anymore make sense. So what we can do is that we will add here search a value node, and then we will connect this to the X, and then we will connect the same node to this vertices X thing. So now it will grow the amount of those loop cuts same time as we change the size of this grid. So if we now add here search math node and then connect it here, and then change this to be multiply, we can adjust how fast those are being added. So now it will stay consistent, and then we will do the same for the y-axis. So let's duplicate that again, and then connect to the y, and then this one here to the vertices y, and then Shift plus D duplicate this one, and then add here. So now whatever we do here, we get very good results. Again, hide everything that you don't want to see. So hide this one and hide this one, and then we can Shift plus right click to drag here to make those dots, and those will be important later because we don't want to control this with these value nodes, but instead with something else, but I will come back to that later. So in geometry nodes, every single one of those cross sections of this grid is called points. So basically the vertices are called points. We can now use this knowledge to add something to those points. So keep that one selected and then select here, for example, this rounded, and I'm gonna drag it here. And then I actually wanna drag this curved also here. So we can drag here, and then we will get this search menu here, and we can find here instances on points, this one here. And then we can connect this geometry here to this instance. And then if we connect this one here to this geometry, we get this. Now we can go back to this viewport shading mode, so we can see what on earth is happening here. Also, we actually wanna use this distort before of this instance on points node, so we will connect this one here instead, like that. Now what we need to do is to change the angle of those things, because they are all kind of in a wrong way here. So we can look at this object info of this curved instance, and then we can add here the transform node. So search and then transform geometry. And now we can adjust this. So if we rotate here, you see how every single one of those are kind of rotated also like that. It's supposed to be this object here, but it looks like that. So, and the problem is our all favorite apply scale. So select that and then Ctrl+A and then apply scale. And then we will get something more reasonable. When we are at it, let's also apply the scale for that other object, so that we don't need to do that again. So now, when we have that done, we can now adjust these multiply nodes to make a little bit more sense out of this. So I will put here 8, because for me it feels good, and then here maybe also 8, and then here we will change the rotation of each of those so that it looks like a roof tiling. Like that. And that already looks really good in my opinion, but we can do so much more with this. One thing that we want to control is that if there is a hole, some missing tiles in this wall grid of those, so we can do that very easily. Let's move this node a little bit there, and then when we have here this grid and every point in this grid is having its own tile, we can delete some of those points, and then it will create a hole. So let's search C+A delete geometry. So geometry operations and then delete geometry. And it will delete everything, as you can see. So we can control that with something called noise texture. So search noise texture and then let's add it here to this selection. So now it will select, but because this noise texture is not black and white, it actually is having grayscale values. It will kind of read everything that is gray to be 1. So it will delete everything. So we can add here a ramp. So color ramp and then add it here. And then if we adjust this, we can control the amount of deleted tiles here. But there is a problem with this color ramp, because we cannot kind of get this value here out from this and then control it anywhere else. So we actually delete it again, and then let's search instead map range node and add it here. And now with this min value, we can control it, and then we can get this value out from here. So let's move it here, and then let's add here value, and then here. Then this noise texture is important, because with this we can control how exactly those are being deleted. So if you want bigger holes there, you can do it like that. And then if you change this to be 4D, you can also kind of change the seed of how those are being deleted. So by this way you could do very crazy things. You can, for example, add an image texture and add it to this value. And then with that image texture you can draw an image of something to be deleted out from this grid. Alright, before everything again starts getting a little bit too messy, we actually want to add the cube back here. So this is what we have now, and let's clean it up by adding the cube back. And by saying that we are going to add the cube, I actually mean that we will add the group input node here, this one. So what we can do with this is that if we connect here, for example, this first grid size node here, like actually from this side, so we can now control it here from the modifiers tab. So let's call this to be size X. Let's hide that. Group, and then this input size X. And then we will connect here this one, and this is called size Y, obviously. And this is called holes amount of holes, something like that, holes. And then the holes, we can change how much we have those. I actually want to control these multiply nodes also outside of this. So let's connect this one here, and this is called X tweak. So X tweak, and by this we can little bit tweak this if we want for some reason to have a little bit thicker rows. And then we connect this one here, and this is called Y tweak. And similarly we can tweak in y-axis this whole thing. And then connect this one here from the noise texture, and this is called noise seed. And then this one here, and then noise scale. We can hide that one. Let's move everything a little bit closer so it's easier for you to see and follow. At least I hope so. And we can hide those multiply nodes. And I'm always trying to make those lines in a way that it's easier to see where every line is going. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is to be able to change the angle of this thing. We can change it like that, obviously in object mode, but we want to be able to control it also in the geometry nodes. So we can select this node here and just duplicate it here after all of these nodes. And then, so what we do is that we will find a node called combine X, Y, Z. So we connect this one here, and now with this we can control it. So now this is not anymore using these angles that we used here, but I think we can live with that. We don't need to convert it to anything because you can visually see what you are doing. So I will just leave it like that, 0.8, and then I will connect this X value here. And then roof angle is going to be named for this value here. Alright, so let's look a little bit of this or distort node here. So if we go here, it's a little bit too much in my opinion. But if we go here and change the scale here, it looks actually okay. So in some cases where you have very old building, you might actually have something like that. So I think it's okay to have this wall range here. I could add map range node here and then control it in a way that you are only allowed to have like 0.8 to 1, but I think it actually works like just fine. So it's up to the person using these things to make it work in a proper way. So I will go here like, okay, I will just go here and connect this one here, and then this factor is called distortion amount, and then the second one is distortion scale. So now again distortion amount and then scale. Now when I think about it, you might actually wanna have this kind of big scale distortion, but then you also might wanna have a small scale distortion. So I just duplicate this my distort node here, and then I will connect it one here and both of those. So now I have kind of 2 levels of distortion, and then I have very fine control over it. So distortion second level, and then distort scale. You see, I think that's actually pretty useful. Very fine tuned there. And then okay, so at the start of this video we actually made 2 different types of those roof tiles. So this one and then this one, but I never touched those after that. So now we will add here the node called switch. So Shift+A, search, switch, and it's in the utilities if you want to search it from here. So here somewhere, utilities and then switch. So we add it there. But either way, it looks like that the other node is actually rotated wrong. So what I need to do is that I need to transform this, or actually I can rotate it here. So rotate Z 980 degree and then apply scale. So now it's supposed to be rotated. No, it's not. Oh, apply all transforms. So now it's working, but it actually doesn't look right because the tile size is wrong. So it's a little bit too short. So I will just edit this one like that, and then a little bit longer, and that's it. Now it's supposed to work. So this is what we did. We just added this switch node here, and then we can connect this switch toggle there. So now we have here this switch, and we can easily, actually something is wrong. Apply all transforms. Okay. It will little bit move the wall setup. To fix that movement problem, you can actually go here and select your tile object and then set origin and then origin to geometry, and then for the same to this other tile type, other tile. So now it's supposed to work. So now if we switch here, it's not moving anymore that much at least. Alright, this is what we have now. And the next thing is that we want to set up some material here, and that's luckily very easy. We just add here set material, and then we need to have some material to set here. So let's go here to the materials tab and then click new, and let's call this tiles, and then we select the tiles here, and that's it. Now we have material. We can add the color to be something like reddish something, and then if we go to rendering mode, PC. Okay, it doesn't look anything because we don't have lighting, so actually add very fast lighting here from the world properties, and then here sky texture. But let's maybe add new editor here, and let's make this to be shader editor, and let's add here geometry node. And now if we add here, connect the random per island to the base color, we should have random colors. Ramp. Okay, why we didn't get random colors here is because Blender actually is still thinking all of those tiles to be points. Those are instances, so they don't have geometry. So what we can do is that we can realize the geometry. So if we had here node called realize instances, this one, and then it will work because now those are actually real geometry. That kind of makes sense. You can add some texture here if you want to, but I want to keep this quite simple. But now I want to show you how you can use this. For example, if you want to have tower out of this, how you can do it, because this is just plain, and so it's easy. You can do it here in geometry nodes. You can do some curve settings and things like that. But I actually want to do things as simple as possible. So that I will add here a curve instead, Bezier. Actually, let's add here Bezier circle. So like this, and then select this or roof thing, and then go here to modifiers, and let's add modifier deform, and then curve, and let's select the Bezier curve like that. So now if we change the roof angle here, you see what I'm doing here. And we actually need to change the size also along x-axis because curve is a little bit too big. And then change the roof angle again. So now this allowed us to have this effect that we firstly have this wall circle, but also the size of the tiles is getting smaller here the higher you go. So what you can do is that you can kind of duplicate this whole thing. And now for the new one, you can make it very much shorter, and then adjust the curve. So this is a little bit peaking with the settings, but this is way faster than manually doing all of that, as you might believe. So now I don't know what I created, but this is what you can do. Maybe change this secondary thing to have other type of roofing. I don't know why, but for some reason. Actually, now when we look at this, it looks like that the tiles are wrong way. So what we can do, we can adjust the angle there, or we can actually edit this all curve. So if you press Ctrl+T, you can actually rotate it like that. Okay, I need to record this small additional video here after I actually finished this wall scene. So how I fixed those is that I go here, and then here we have here these transform geometry node angles. So we can just change how those tiles are rotated. And actually, if you wanted to, you could easily also change the scale of these. I didn't show it before, but you can make those tiles thicker, every single tile. And then you can actually add here this combine XYZ node and add it there, and then duplicate it and add it there. So now this is confusing because now those are. Let's put all of those to be 1 so that we can actually see what on earth is happening. But yeah, so now we can control this whole thing, and then we can make these or modifier settings to be much more complex, or much more settings there. So for example, this let's actually duplicate this. You don't have to use this same node for everything. You can duplicate it and have kind of same things happening there. So tile X, do we want to have, okay, maybe we want to change every single one of those values here. And then let's use this rotation also, because it seems that we need to change those. We cannot rely on the automatic setting. So yeah, those are now there, and then we will add here node here, this group, and then so okay, this is X tile scale, this is Y tile scale, and this is Z tile scale, and then this is rotation, X tile rotation. Let's copy this, and this is Y tile rotation, and this is Z tile rotation. So now basically this whole setup is now very easy to control. So here, I don't know why would someone want to do this, but it's now possible. And then okay, this is super weird, but it kind of works. I don't know why I feel that this kind of works, but it looks very alien to me. But yeah, you can do now this too. And then yeah, and this looks way more kind of Pixar kind of, because those are kind of very big features and very easy to read what's going on there. So I think that's very positive that you are allowed now to do this also. And then obviously if you select this or original roof and maybe actually select the circle here, and then Shift+S cursor to selected, and then if we add here lattice, and then Shift+A, let's add here the lattice object. So now if we scale this lattice object, what we can do with this is that we can actually distort the roof. If you want to have it kind of have this kind of, I don't know, something like that, then you can add more control points for this lattice. So something like that, and then select the object again, the roof object, and then here lattice. Actually, I think I added the lattice for this from curve object, so delete it from there, and then instead let's add it there for the roof object. So here, let's find wherever is here lattice, and then select the lattice. So now if we go to edit mode with this lattice, we can make interesting roof shape, and it looks like some farm building or something like that. And then let's add here maybe cube, and duplicate this, and then we actually don't want to have the curve here, and we also don't want to have the lattice here. So now for the new tiling thing, we can add it there. So just like that, we created very easily this kind of a tool that allows us to add tiles to our roofs. But the same technique that you used here to create the roofs, you can use the similar kind of technique, create for example fences around this whole farm area. Alright, fast explanation of what I did here, just to make sure you understood. So if you, for example, have here problems with this, that the ends do not meet, you can just select the curve and then rotate it slightly. And then what I did with the world, I have here the background texture as a sky texture here, which is a thing in Blender that you can just very easily add there. And then I have here these kind of settings. Okay, and then I added this very simple brick texture that just happened to be in my computer, and then I adjusted the material slightly. So here is the texture, and I'm using noise texture and gradient texture to have a little bit darkening here in the bottom. I don't know if it's even visible very much. Let's maybe move this a little bit more down. So you can see that it's a little bit darker there. I could actually add here an ambient occlusion also. So ambient occlusion. It's always so... Oh, wait a minute, this is wrong. I need to add it here. Ambient occlusion. And then add it there, but not there. Yeah. And then multiply. So now in some areas we are supposed to have a little bit darkening it there. So basically this makes some corner areas a little bit darker, which looks realistic, obviously. So I am huge fan of that. And then what else? Maybe we add ambient occlusion also to this material. So for the roof tiling, ambient occlusion, and then let's make this to be multiply. And the grass material is just mix of noise and then grass texture. So nothing very hard, very easy materials. You can add here also some image texture. Why didn't I do that before? Maybe find image texture. Do I have something in my computer? Concrete, something like that. And let's multiply it there, or overlay. So that's a way to add some details to those roof tilings. And maybe it's used here box and then a little bit blend and then object coordinates. Yeah, that's a way to go. You could also add here some moss textures or something like that, and then mix it with that image texture, and then control the factor with noise texture. But I'm not going there. It's up to you to continue after this point. This was just a way to make roof tiling in Blender with geometry nodes. Thank you. It was very pleasant to be here doing tutorials again after all of this time. So see you next time, and God bless.